Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Pete here with MixBetterNow.com, and I'm really excited. We're going to be starting a brand new video series, okay? I've been thinking about some really cool ways to create a bunch of new content for you, and I've been getting a lot of requests to show entire processes behind things like mixing drums, mixing stereo guitars, mixing vocals, mixing bass. So I thought a really fun way to break all that stuff down and to show you all of those things would be to mix a song from start to finish and break it up into chunks, and I'll show you guys exactly how I do it. I want to go through, and this is going to be mixing drums from scratch. So we're going to use the same session. I'm going to break it up into all different instruments. And here's the best part. You guys can all follow along with me, okay? All you have to do to follow along is down in the description box below. There'll be a link, or you can go over to MixBetterNow.com. Sign up on the email list, and inside of the audio swag bag is this multi-track session. This is Lights Are Low from Matt MacKelcan. You guys can download this, and you can follow along with me every step of the way. So I kind of realize it's a little confusing because we're going to be doing like a series inside of a series, but in my estimation, I thought it would be the easiest way to kill a few birds with one stone and to really break it down into bite-size and digestible chunks, because I really want you to take this all on board and understand it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into mixing drums from scratch. Okay, so we're inside of Studio One here. I have gone ahead and I have dragged every single track from this session in. So I've also just organized it in terms of how I like my layout to be. I've also color-coded everything, but that's all I've done. I set the tempo originally when setting up the session, so it's 148 BPM, and we have everything laid out. Now I don't have, I'm not using my template, I don't have any buses set up yet. I'm going to do that all in real time so you can see how I do that. Drums are in red, okay? So we've got a bunch of drum tracks. We have some percussion in brown here. Bass is in blue. Guitars are in green. We have some keys in this orange color. We have some synthesizers or some pads in yellow, and vocals are in purple. Okay, so since we're talking about mixing drums in this first bit, what I have on the screen really is the drums, okay? Like I said, they are in red. Top to bottom here, that's sort of how I just organize everything. We're starting with the kicks up here, so we have a kick in, a kick out mic, we have a snare top, a snare bottom. We have a rack tom, floor tom, hi-hat mic. We have a pair of overheads, okay? So we have overhead left and right, and then we have 3 room mics, which is awesome. We have a room left, a room center, and a room right. So just to sort of ease everything in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide everything else because I just want to focus on the drums. Now there's a bunch of stuff that we're going to need to do here with the drums to take care of a little bit of housekeeping. It's important that we get everything prepped and set up the way that we want, because it's going to make the mix process a whole lot easier. Okay, so let's go ahead and open our console view here, mix window, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to do a few things and get rid of the instrument tab because we're not using any virtual instruments here. And as you can see, everything is hidden. Let's actually close the inspector for now. And what I want to do is I want to set up some of my buses and set up some of my routing how I normally set it. But the first thing we need to do is we need to get everything going to my submix bus. So I'm clicking on the first track, shift click on the second, right click, add bus for selected tracks, okay? We're going to call this the submix. Now, if you guys have been watching my my videos and my tutorials, you will know that I use 2 mix buses, and I do this for a very specific reason. I have a dry and I have a wet mix bus. Okay, so my submix is my wet mix bus. This is where I'm going to put all my processing. I just call it submix. I really don't know why I do that. I actually call the stereo out over here. I call this the mix bus. Now, the important thing is not what I call it. but more of how the routing is set up. Okay, so I make those that kind of color just because you know, I've used Pro Tools forever and that just sort of feels right. But now what I have is I have all of the audio here is getting routed to the submix. So I'm just going to bring these down because we haven't done any gain staging yet, and I just want to show you that it's all coming here. Okay, so on the submix here is where I'm going to put things like processing. So, you know, I'll put something like this on here as the first insert, but right now I don't want to focus on any of the mix bus stuff. We haven't gotten there yet. I always, you know, I do mix into certain things straight from the start, but right now it's irrelevant, so I'm going to just turn that off, and I just want you to know that we're going to the mix bus here, to the submix, I'm sorry. On the mix bus, I will put things in post, like metering. So if I grab one of my favorites, go Isotope Insight. I'm just going to get rid of some stuff here that I don't use, and I will set my overall loudness target to be something like -18 RMS. You can see that we have we've got our loudness here, and we also have our frequency graph spectrum analyzer. So I'm just going to leave that right there for now, and when we talk more about the mix bus, I will get into that. But I just wanted to send everything there right now. So we've gone ahead and hit everything, and now we need to set up our busing system. I just want to get everything bussed accordingly and properly. You know, that way we know where we're at. And, you know, listen, being organized is very important. Having the session manageable is also very important. If this was a huge session, I mean, granted, it's, you know, what, 35 tracks, but, you know, if we had a 150 track session, we would have to make it manageable. Okay, if it's not manageable, it's not mixable. So I'm going to send everything here to a drum bus. Right click, add bus for selected tracks. Okay, so I'm just going to call this drum kit. I make all my buses in Studio One white. I just do. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a bus for the kicks. Same way, shift click, right click, add bus for selected channels. We're going to set up a snare bus. We're going to do a toms bus. And then we're going to send the hats, the overheads, and the room mics to what I call an overhead room bus. I'll show you why we do that in a little bit. Okay, now it's just important to make sure that our routing is correct. So kicks are coming here to the kicks bus. This is going to the drum kit. That's exactly where I want it to go. Just make sure everything is heading over here to the drum kit, and it is. So now I'm just going to group everything over over to the right here. Now that's just how I work. Okay, this is by no means how you have to do anything. I might even come back and move these over next to the tracks as I go. So what I want to do now is I want to make sure that the drums are in phase, and this is a very important part of mixing acoustic drums is phase issues. What I'll do is I'm going to put a couple different links in the description box below. Things like videos that I've already done, one called Why I Use Two Mix Buses. That'll explain what I was talking about before. I did another video on how to identify and correct phase issues, particularly on drums. Okay, but one thing that I love to use is auto align on my drums. So what we're going to do is we'll bring these back up to unity gain. I am not starting my static mix yet. All I want to do is I want to set up my auto align plugins appropriately. I want to get those routed and sort of set up so that we can make sure that our phase relationship is as good as possible. All right, so I've also done a video on how to use auto align, but I wanna revisit it here because that was a while back, and you know, I feel like we're always refining our craft and we're always learning new things. So what I want to do is break down the process again for you because it's important. You know, listen, phase in a mix with any instruments, whether it's drums, whether you have multiple bass tracks, you're multi-miking things like a guitar amp or an acoustic guitar. Phase is imperative, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna solo up all the drums. Everything else is hidden right now, so that would be audible. So we're gonna leave everything on solo, and I just want to hear where everything's at volume-wise. Okay, disregard the fact that it's clipping right now. Like I said, we've yet to gain stage or analyze any of those things. So what I want to do is I want to start using auto align. Now here's how I use auto align. Okay, I usually find a point of reference on the drums, and for me it's usually one of the overhead microphones. So it's usually either overhead left or overhead right, depending on which has more predominant snare or hi-hat in it, right? Because depending on how you have something mic'd up, you're going to hear a little bit more. For example, I could listen to something and I could tell, okay, you know, the image is telling me that we're hearing a little bit more snare on the right, or we're hearing a little bit more snare on the left. So that's where I want to put the first instance of auto align. So let's listen to the left. Here's the right. All right, so immediately right there, I could tell that the left-hand side is louder, so that means that there's a lot more energy coming from that side. So I'm going to start on the left here. So we're going to put in our first instance of auto align, and if I could find it, Sound Radix. Okay, so enter auto align. Now listen, this isn't really going to be a tutorial on how to use auto align, but I am going to go through the process. All right. I can also add the link below of, I got a lot of links to put in there. I'm going to add the link below as to, so you can go click on it and you can check it out, where I kind of go slow and I break it down. But I'm going to kind of hustle through this because, you know, this is part of it, but I really want to focus on some other details and aspects of the drums. So auto align is absolutely genius if you know how to use it correctly. I've heard some comments made like, oh man, auto align completely kills your image and it makes your drum kit sound smaller. It can, and it will do that if you use it incorrectly. So it's a taste thing. I like using auto align, but I'm going to show you the best way to use it to get the biggest, fattest, punchiest sounding, punchiest sounding drums you can. And it's really easy, guys. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit send one. This is our reference. This is our point of reference. So we're going to send everything out to all of the other tracks, or at least most of the other tracks from here. Okay, so send one, and we're just going to hit play and see where our headroom's at. And I'm just going to leave it alone. That's it. That's all we're doing. So we're going to leave that on the overhead left. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to put auto align on the overhead right. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that the overheads are in phase with each other. These are one of the most important parts of recording a drum kit, is making sure that your overheads are in phase with the entire drum kit. And you know, sometimes it gets botched, sometimes it gets done incorrectly, but we are making 100% sure that they are in fact in phase. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hit receive one, because we're sending one from the overhead left, we're receiving one to the overhead right. All I'm doing here is raising the noise floor, okay? This will dictate as to how much noise we let through or will be detected by auto align. For example, this is very important to get correct when we're auto aligning the kick drum and the snare drums, okay? Because we only want the kick and the snare to be picked up. But for now, this would be fine. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit play, and then I like to always on drums, I like to check delay and polarity down here. Then we'll hit detect, it'll do its thing, and it'll automatically adjust it in samples whether it's ahead or behind, it'll do its thing. Check it out. We'll hit play. Okay, so what that's telling me is that the right side of the overhead was 25 samples off from the left. It's not massive. It's not like it was 300 samples off, but we're making it even a little bit tighter here, okay? So we're going to leave that alone. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unsolo this, and what I want to do is I want to check the overhead, I'm sorry, the room left and the room right in terms of how they are with one another. I am not, and I repeat, this is one of the secrets of auto-align. I am not going to auto-align the room mics with the overheads or the rest of the drum kit. And the reason being is because if we auto-align them, phase correct them, i.e. bring the waveform closer, because it's going to take the waveform longer to travel to the room mics because they're farther back from the drum kit. If we auto-align the room mics, it's going to make the drum kit sound smaller. The reason that we have room mics on drums is to get a sense of depth, a sense of space, a sense of size, and this is one of the reasons that or places that I see people sort of using auto-align incorrectly. So that being said, we can check the relationship of the left and the right-hand side to each other, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave that alone for now. The next thing I want to do is go to the kick-in mic. So we have our overheads done. We're going to come back to the room mics. Here's the kick-in, soloed with the overhead left. Okay, so we're going to grab auto-align. We're going to do the same thing, receive 1. And I only want this lighting up when the kick hits. We can often get mic bleed inside of the kick mics, the snare mics. So I want to use the noise floor, the threshold here to just light up when the kick hits. Okay, so it's just lighting up when the kick hits. Now we're going to do the same thing we did last time. Delay and polarity detect, and it'll do its thing. Okay, immediately you could hear the kick sound bigger, fatter, punchier. It's moved 186 samples, so that means it was a bit out of phase with the overhead. Now it is in phase. What we're gonna do now is, nope, we are not gonna line the sub kick. It's labeled sub kick. This is actually a kick out mic, so I'll relabel that. But I want to align the kick in and the kick out mic to each other. Because they're close to one another, and I want the kick drum to sound as one sound. So for me, it's another mistake I see people doing is they'll align like the kick out mic and the snare bottom to the overhead, and I don't do that. I do the kicks to each other and the snares to each other. Watch what I mean. So we'll pull in another instance of auto align. Okay, so we'll solo up both drums. So here's the kick in and the kick out. Now, we're going to set this to send 2. All right, send 1 is coming from the overhead left. So this is going to be sending some level to the kick out. So we have to put this to receive 2. We'll set our noise floor again. Same thing, delay and polarity. Such a big difference. I hope you can hear that right away when it comes in. It's not very loud right now, but But nonetheless, it is so much more size we're getting from this. The way that the microphones were set up is they were 109 samples apart from how long it was taking the audio to get to one microphone to going to the other one. Now we have them as if they were perfectly in phase miking the kick drum. So that's off, on. We just get a lot more of our low end back, right? When we have phase issues, we lose a lot of low end frequency information. So that is why I auto align it that way. Now we're going to go to the snare top solo, overhead left solo. Okay. We're going to auto align the snare top to the overhead left. So we're going to hit receive 1 because it's coming from the overhead. We're going to get our noise floor here. Again, just so much bigger sounding when the phase gets corrected. 88 samples here. We're going to do the same thing to the snare bottom that we did to the kick out. So what I want to do is send the snare top to the snare bottom, and we're going to auto align them to each other. So what I have to do now is send the snare top to 3. And we'll set the snare bottom to receive from 3. Okay. Okay, so that was a little bit out of phase. You know, this makes such a big difference. And if I bypass this all in and out when we're done, you're going to hear all this stuff on the drum kit, and you're going to be like, wow, it's a major, major difference in terms of how big it sounds. All right, next thing we want to do here is go with the rack tom. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to look for some tom hits if I can find them. All right, so I'm hearing one over here. Looks like we're getting one right about there. Let's solo up the rack. So what I want to do is I'm going to loop this out because I really wanted to hear the tom hit as opposed to the mic bleed. I mean, either way would be okay. Like, I'm not sure yet if we're going to keep the mic bleed in the toms or not. That really depends on if I want to go for a more live feeling drum kit. But sometimes, you know, I'll chop them out and I'll just keep the tom hits and I'll edit them that way. But we're going to loop this. Okay, and then we will get our overhead auto align on the rack tom. And we're going to receive from 1 because we're coming from the overhead. Now it's important to try our best to get just the tom hit to light up on this on the phase meter here. You know, it's not always possible, but we're going to get it as close as we can, so that way it can make the most intelligent decision to see how in or out of phase it is. Okay, that doesn't look bad. All right, so a little bit off there, and as soon as it kicked in, you know, we got a little bit of that bottom end from the tom back. We're gonna do the same thing to the floor. There's a floor hit right there. So all we have to do is solo that guy up. Throw auto align on him. I'm actually gonna I'm gonna close this in a bit. See if we can't really get the tom hit. But I want to get the sustain of the tom hit. So let's try this. Like that. Let's get our noise floor. Not really picking up the tom there. Got to bring it down a little bit more. Okay. So that's just tightening it up a little bit, which is good. So thus far we have our overheads, our kicks, our snares, and our toms. We're going to do the hi-hats to the overhead, okay, same way. And pop this guy on, receive from 1. And we're going to make sure it's on delay and polarity. Detect. All right, so that's not too bad. I'm not very worried about the hat. Matter of fact, I'm going to take that off. 9 samples is not very much. The other thing, too, is with a hi-hat mic, I'm not always a huge fan of hi-hat mics. Like, if you can hear a lot of the hats in the overheads or in the room mics, you might not always need a hi-hat mic, and they can sound harsh. So, we're just going to leave that guy alone. Now, the last thing that we want to do here is we want to check out the room mics, okay? Now, like I said before, if we auto-aligned all the room mics to the overheads, it's going to make the drum kit sound smaller, so we don't want to do that. There's only one thing I do want to do. I want to make sure that the room left and the room right are in phase with each other because we want them to sort of play nice with one another. But check this out. I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to use the room center mic, and I'm going to make that part of the drum kit sound. What do I mean? I'll show you. Here is the room left and the room right. Okay, and here is the room center. Now, my idea for this method is simply I like how big it sounds, and I like how raw it sounds and how much energy it has to it. So I want to include it as part of the drum kit because if we just listen to the overheads by themselves, they don't sound gigantic by any means. I mean, we're getting a decent image in there, but you know, I like to use the overheads to get the maximum image of the kit. I don't look at overheads like cymbal mics. I look at them as tone mics, right? I want to hear everything in my overheads. I want to hear the kick, the snare, the toms, every single cymbal. You know, if there's anything else on the drum kit, I want to be able to hear it in the overheads. So to give myself a little bit of a boost, I'm going to use the room center mic in addition with the overheads. Check it out. So we can almost use that as like a drum beef mic or a fat mic or something like that. So I am going to line up the room center to the overhead left. So same thing, receive 1. And I'm going to make the noise floor pretty low because I want to get everything in, in there sort of lined up, okay? So now, hopefully you can hear that, is what it did is it moved the room center mic closer to us, right? it moved it 179 samples backwards, right? Minus 179, bringing it closer to the microphones as to where the overheads were. So now we kind of have one sound, and when we start roughing in our our rough mix, our blend, I'm going to use the room center as sort of a fat mic, if you will. One last thing that we have to do here to check our phase is we're going to check the room left to the room right. So we're going to get two things of auto align. And what I want to do is we're going to go room left, and we're going to send it out 4. And then we're going to go to the room right, and we're going to receive it from 4. Okay, just get our level. Get my level from the send. Okay, so the 2 is telling me that these are pretty much perfectly in phase with each other, so I do not need to have auto align on them. I just wanted to make sure that the left side and the right side were pretty much equidistant in the context of the room where they are to the drum kit. Okay, so I'm gonna take these off. Be careful I don't take it off the center. We're gonna take it off the left and the right. Okay, so the next step that we have to do here with the drums is I like to do what's called render to audio. In Studio One, if you're in Pro Tools, you can use the commit function. Equally great. All that's going to do for me here is it's going to essentially take auto align, the measurements it's made, it's going to implement them, and it's going to take the plugin off of the track. So I just want to make sure everything's cool. Now that's a really huge difference to me, okay? Before we had done this, this isn't mixed yet. Everything's at 0. There's absolutely no balancing going on. So check it out. If I bypass auto align in and out on every single one of these drums, listen to how much more anemic it starts to sound without it. So that's with no plugins on anything. That's with no mixing, no moving of the fader on any track. That is simply by getting our phase in line and correct. We are adding so much more body, bottom, size, weight, fatness, punch. Whatever buzzword you want to use, we're getting it back there. Okay, phase notoriously gets rid of the low end frequencies on whatever you are multi-miking. So here we've handled that. Now I'm going to go through and I want to render all of these, so that way we will get rid of auto align here on these drums. I don't want to have to worry about it once we start doing our rough mix after that. So essentially what I'm going to do is come to the first track here. I'm going to right click, and we are going to come down and we're going to hit transform to rendered audio. Okay, like I said before, if you're in Pro Tools, you can use the commit function, the commit to audio, but here I'm just going to hit transform to rendered audio. Okay, now we come up with we get a menu here. It says preserve real-time state, support retransformation to audio track with insert effects. So essentially what this tells me is that if we keep this checked, we can undo it at any time if we need to go back and make any tweaks to the plugins. when we render to audio. So I'm going to keep this checked. The auto tail feature or the fixed tail, we can choose to sort of tell it to keep X amount of tail or time on the end of the waveform, on the region, on the clip, whatever you want to call it. And you might want to do this if you're doing something like, let's say there was a bunch of reverb on there and it had a really long decay time and a really long tail. You might want to keep it on, but I am just going to leave the first box checked here, and we're going to click OK. So it does its thing, and then, you know, so you can see the plugin went away, but what it's done is it's nudged the audio and it's moved it to where auto align corrected it to. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this to every single one of these, and we're going to hit transform audio track again, and again, just check off the first box, preserve real-time state. I'm going to hit OK. All right, now I'm going to go through and I'm going to do this to all the rest of the drum tracks. All right, so we've gone ahead and we have rendered all of the tracks to audio. So that got rid of all of the auto align on there, and it essentially nudged all of the phasing issues that we had, so it moved some of them, and it kept it too, so we can go back and we can change it if we need to, but so far so good. Okay, so this has been the end of part 1. In the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to take care of our gain staging and our static mix, and then we might start putting some stuff on the drum bus. We'll start moving some faders around, of course, but guys, like I said in the beginning of the video, please go ahead on the description box below, click on the link, download the free audio swag bag. You can download this very same session and you can mix right along with me. You can do everything that I am doing in real time as I am doing it. Look, I know these videos are going to be a little bit longer, but I really want to go into depth for you guys, and I want to show you sort of my method and my technique. Beginning, you know, like I said, a lot of requests for all this stuff, and I think this would be a really good way to sort of, you know, go about that. So this has been the first video of mixing drums from scratch in the bigger picture, mixing the entire song, Lights Are Low, from Matt MacKelcan. Make sure you guys go ahead, click on the link in the description box, get on the email list, get your free audio swag bag, and go ahead and start dragging these tracks into your DAW and start mixing along with me. All right, so as always, I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. I hope you all have an awesome day, and I will catch you guys in part 2. See ya.